So return with me to a galaxy far, far away as we take a look at the darkest chapter of the original Star Wars trilogy, The Empire Strikes Back. Following the destruction of the Death Star, the powerful Galactic Empire surges throughout the remote reaches of space to hunt down the Rebel Alliance. On the ice planet of Hoth, the Jedi Knight in training, Luke Skywalker is given a cryptic message by ghostly Obi-Wan Kenobi after surviving a fierce attack by savage Wampa Beast. Soon thereafter, an Imperial probe droid exposes the Rebels' secret base, forcing them to do battle with the dominating Imperial forces as they attempt their escape. While Luke follows Kenobi's message to seek out a Jedi Master on the planet Dagobah, Han, Leia, Chewbacca, and C-3PO find themselves without a hyperdrive and narrowly evading the Imperial Navy. Once on Dagobah, Luke discovers the centuries-old Jedi Master Yoda and begins to learn the deeper meanings of the Force, as well as the troubling trials that lie ahead of him. Meanwhile, the evil Lord Darth Vader conspires with his Emperor to lure out the impatient and restless Jedi for their own sinister motives. Soon the heroes aboard the Millennium Falcon attempt to seek refuge with Han's old friend Lando Calrissian on the planet Bespin, but when Skywalker sees a vision of his friends in terrible pain and danger, he risks whatever danger awaits in order to save them. Now our courageous heroes must face their most dire challenges yet from the tyrannical might of the Empire, while the young Jedi apprentice is tempted by the dark side of the Force by the powerful Darth Vader, who holds an even more startling truth for the fateful Luke Skywalker. So released on May 20th, 1980, Star Wars Episode V, The Empire Strikes Back, was produced originally with an $18 million budget in mind, but several setbacks and issues caused the budget to inflate past $23 million, and early on George Lucas had decided that he wanted to step back from a lot of the duties and stresses and responsibilities that affected him very strongly on the first film, and decided not to directly screenwrite or direct this film, instead just being the executive producer and story writer on it, and he originally approached science fiction writer Leigh Brackett to write the screenplay for the film. Did a couple of story conferences with her, but first draft came back and he wasn't terribly excited about it, and unfortunately before he really had time to go over a lot of the issues he had with her screenplay draft, she unfortunately had passed away from cancer, and eventually George Lucas approached screenwriter Lawrence Kasdan, who took on the main screenwriting duties of The Empire Strikes Back, and George Lucas decided again, didn't want to direct this entry, and decided to approach one of his former professors from USC, Irvin Kershner, about doing it, and Kershner was a bit standoffish about the whole thing. It's like, it's very intimidating. You're being approached to direct a sequel to what at the time was the biggest money-making film of all time. Kind of intimidating to go into that situation, and Kershner kind of rejected the idea. He declined the offer, but his agent kind of talked some sense into him and said, you should be doing this film. It's the best thing for you to do at this point, and it's great that Irvin Kershner really kind of brought forth a perfect sensibility towards directing The Empire Strikes Back, that in his mind you couldn't really outdo the original in terms of the spectacle, that type of fun, big adventure type of film. So he decided to take the film in a direction of focusing on the characters, on the thematic qualities of the film, focusing on the deeper issues and the substance that can be drawn out of the mythology and the characters and the story overall. And between him and Lawrence Kasdan really brought all these elements into fruition to really breathe so much onto the screen with this film. And the tone of The Empire Strikes Back is distinctly different from the first film, because you definitely have to put the characters at much more peril in this second act of this trilogy to really kind of delve deeper, put them down as far as you can to build them back up so their ultimate victories are triumphant when you go into the final act of the trilogy. And Kershner really kind of just focused on the fact that he had put a lot of different things in this film, but he couldn't be very overt about it. He couldn't have, he had to have a love story, but he couldn't make it all mushy or whatnot. He needed to have some humor in the film, but he couldn't just go over the top and have gags in the thing. So he definitely employed a lot of subtlety, a lot of implication about these things. Just have it kind of lay the seeds in there and have it grow and develop organically and naturally with these whole things. So it's not bludgeoning you over the head with stuff. It goes in there and just goes right on the surface and builds it up there. And right from the onset of the film, you definitely get a much more mysterious, ominous tone going on with the probes being launched from the Star Destroyer and all the little things building up to the Wampa attack, which definitely introduces a much more dangerous tone to the film, setting the stage for a film that is definitely telling you there's going to be a lot more peril, there's going to be a lot more consequence here, that our heroes are going to be in a lot more danger than they ever have been before. And I really like how the film gets you not in the thick of the plot or the thick of the action right away. It gets you in the thick of the characters, getting you caught up with how these characters have developed between one another and understanding where they are at this point in time to really kind of give you the launching pad into this story overall. And just like, it's a really interesting thing that this film has sort of a reversal of its structure in a certain way, that it does start out with the big action sequences and everything. It starts out with the big wide scope of the whole film with the big implications of just the Empire versus the Rebellion, and then gradually narrows its focus down to a much more personal and small and intimate and still dangerous type of story that's entirely pertinent to the entire Star Wars saga. But it's just a very interesting thing that it starts out big and then goes much more smaller, much more intimate, much more darker. And certainly at the heart of this whole story is Luke Skywalker, portrayed again by Mark Hamill, who I think does a fantastic job in this film. First off, showing Luke as a guy who seems like he has matured a little bit more from when we last saw him, and just exudes a little bit more of a confident type of leader, much more of a respected type of person amongst the Rebellion, amongst his other squadron members, and everyone else. It just feels like a much more grown-up type of person. But there is a certain limitation to the character of Luke Skywalker here, that he does feel a certain confidence with the Force, a certain amount of skill, a certain progression from what we last saw him with. But it's still the fact that once we get further along in the story, you see how much more there is, how much he doesn't know, how much he's not prepared for in this film. And I think Luke Skywalker is a character here that really just brings everyone along on a fantastic journey that is very much full of discovery and revelation, that Mark Hamill does such a fantastic job stretching his acting range, stretching his abilities to wrap itself around the fantastic stuff in this script and in this film overall, to really kind of show a wide range of emotionality and a lot of different things with the character here that he has to go through, to show a lot of fear, a lot of different things, and a lot of different subtle emotions here with a lot of different multi-layers to him, that you definitely see so much of this character progress and develop and just realize a lot of different things within himself. And you definitely kind of get the feeling that he is sort of masking fear here and there, that he's trying to come off as much more confident, much more stronger type of figure, but underneath there is a deeper fear there, that he is afraid when he's facing off with Vader. Even in the cave on Dagobah, you see that sort of dreamlike sequence where he definitely sees that if he keeps giving in to the impulsiveness, the passion type of nature he has, the impatience that he has, all these type of things, he's going to become the thing that he fears the most. And it's very interesting how the film progresses and uses those types of themes and uses those types of ideas to develop the character further, and just how Mark Hamill just embodies everything on such a great level that you see at the beginning of the film, the great heroic type of figure that he is. At the beginning of the film on Hoth, you definitely see that character that we knew from the previous film, but the film goes on and develops him, puts him in deeper, darker type of situations where he has to mature, be pushed further. And just fantastic that Mark Hamill, again, is an actor that I feel like doesn't get as much credit as he deserves for the role that he portrayed here in the saga. People kind of either take him for granted or just discount him. But when you really see the depth of what he had to do with each one of these films, you really see that he has a fantastic range, and he actually exercises it to the most degree in The Empire Strikes Back, which just pulls and tears the character of Luke Skywalker in so many different directions. It's just fantastic that you see so much of this character being stretched and even wounded in this film. It's just a fantastic type of performance and fantastic arc and journey for the character overall. I think Mark Hamill just puts it on the top level of this film, that it is so much held on his shoulders. The overall story of this film, if he wasn't up to the task, if he didn't have that, or he didn't have the proper direction to drive and draw those qualities out from himself, you really would not have this film hold up on the strong levels that it does, with its dramatic integrity and overall storytelling. Really is laid on the crux of his performance and the quality of character that Luke Skywalker is. And also putting in his strongest performance of the original trilogy is Harrison Ford, returning as Han Solo here. That you still get the fun, charismatic, charming type of scoundrel that we all know and love, but you definitely get to see a lot more, again, varied qualities in this character that develops the character of Han Solo even further, because you have the romantic subplot with him and Princess Leia, that you just see so many great things between these two characters in the film that, yeah, early on they're bickering, they're bantering, they have a lot of arguments, because that's how the whole relationship really started out, that they really kind of didn't like each other. They're always bickering, they're always throwing things back at one another, insults here and there. But it's kind of a classic Hollywood type of love story, that these two people who don't really kind of mesh together, they're kind of opposites in a certain way. They don't really kind of seem like the type of pair that would come together, but between all the drama that they've been through, all the things that they've developed and kind of hated each other for, it kind of draws them further together. It sparks an attraction somehow, and just seeing how Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher just work off each other so magnificently in this film, sparking out fantastic chemistry with everything that they do, from the argumentative scenes that also spark a lot of great humor in the film, to the downright sincere and earnest scenes where they just connect on that type of level. You definitely see this much more tender type of moments that develop in the film that are just a little bit here and there. They just kind of imply something, and they pull it back, and they just touch on things here and there until you get the fantastic scene at the carbon freezing chamber. But just seeing how Harrison Ford takes his character to another step here, that he's not just kind of a cocky type of wise-ass type of scoundrel. He has a much more deeper dramatic development going on, that you almost see a little bit of a reflection between him and the character of Lando Calrissian, that Lando is kind of more the guy that Han Solo used to be, a little bit more outlaw, a little bit more or less reliable, a little bit more kind of just loyal to himself and stuff like that. So it's like you get to see a reflection of who Han kind of was, and now you see where he is now, a much more loyal type of guy, much more stand-up, respectable type of guy. And just like you just see so many different things from Harrison Ford's performance here that just adds so much weight and gravity to the film at the most pertinent points. But you still get the absolutely fun and enjoyable, lovable type of character that we fell in love with in the beginning. But Harrison Ford just puts forth such a strong performance here as Han Solo that just absolutely captures your heart and just wrenches it like living hell when you see the fate that befalls the character of Han Solo here. And Carrie Fisher just, again, she shows a great range here as well, that early on you do see the commanding, authoritative Princess Leia there at the Hoth base, seeing that she takes command of situations and just moves forward in that type of way. But you definitely see the softer side, the more tender side to her character. So there is a dimensionality there that you get to just explore and discover in this film that shows just there's so much more depth to these characters than what we got before. And it is great having the addition of Billy D. Williams here as Lando Calrissian, this guy who is the smoothest guy in the entire galaxy, because Lando Calrissian, like I said, he is a little bit of a reflection on who Han Solo used to be, but it's still his own distinct type of character, with his own distinct traits and his own character arc in the film, just showing this character who is a bit of a gambler, that it is a guy who's always sort of weighing the odds and balancing the stakes, and always trying to figure out exactly when the scale is going to tip a little too far against him. And just interesting how this character just kind of works the different scenes, how Billy D. Williams really does interact with this entire cast, how he puts on that great charismatic facade, and then how he's turning and talking with Vader there and trying to be argumentative, but he's just in such an impossible situation, stuck in this thing that Vader can keep changing the whole plan, the entire deal on a whim, and there's absolutely nothing Calrissian can do about it. But it's just fantastic how this character just quickly develops in the film. That I think the pivotal scene in the film obviously is in the carbon freezing chamber, but not so much just when Han gets frozen. I think Lando sees that expression, the absolute sorrow and the sadness on the face of Princess Leia, and realizes he has to take some kind of action here against this terrible situation that he's been locked into. So it's a great development of this character that takes him from charming rogue to a sort of a total betrayal of a scoundrel to a guy who definitely shows a more heroic, altruistic side to him. So it's a great little character arc in this film, filled with so many character arcs, so many great arcs in this film overall, but just a fantastic, excellent part of the cast here. Billy D. Williams, absolutely fantastic addition to this film. But this is definitely the film where Darth Vader is essentially unleashed, because in the previous film he really was kind of playing a little bit sort of second fiddle to Grand Moff Tarkin, so he wasn't really shown to have the authority that he has in this film. That definitely in The Empire Strikes Back you definitely get the entire icon, the entire sensibility of Darth Vader solidified here, because you see him in absolutely unleashed type of mode here, that he is complete command of everything. The entire Imperial Navy is at his whim to hunt down the rebels and hunt down Luke Skywalker and the Millennium Falcon. He is complete control, and how he's choking out other guys in the Imperial Navy just because they failed him once or twice, and just exercising his might, his iron fists in the film. Just everything that Vader does in this film just adds to the weight of his character. The threatening, frightful nature of Lord Darth Vader here is absolutely exemplified in The Empire Strikes Back, that you see the weight of evil with his character, but he's also a very calculating, very dangerous and intelligent character here, that you see all the best qualities of this villainous character exemplified absolutely in The Empire Strikes Back. And you definitely get a lot more depth with the character of Vader here, because obviously you see him early on collaborating with the Emperor about one course of action to turn Luke Skywalker to the dark side for their benefit. But obviously when we get into the climax of the film, Darth Vader has a completely different agenda to use Luke Skywalker to overthrow the Emperor, and just creates a much more interesting depth with the character of Vader than what you really saw in the previous film. That you see that there is much more going on inside of this character, emotionally, psychologically. There's a lot more here to grasp, especially when you get the mother of all revelations here revealing that Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's father. A revelation that kid growing up in the 80s, born the same year this film came out, just always was common knowledge to me. I just never had the opportunity to have that fresh feeling when I saw this film as a kid, to really get the impact of that moment overall. It would be something fantastic to be someone who was sitting there in that theater in 1980 when they saw that scene for the first time and were completely blindsided by one of the most shocking revelations that you've ever had in film. But it's the fact that this film makes Vader a much more powerful and almost brooding type of figure that deepens and enriches his character overall. But moving from the dark side of the Force to the light side of the Force, we have the fantastic addition of the character of Yoda here, which was pretty much a remarkable achievement for the people working on this film with the puppetry and all that type of stuff, and Frank Oz himself, to bring this little rubber puppet that a lot of people didn't have a hell of a lot of confidence was really going to sell on screen, was really going to work, and actually have it work in spades to absolutely capture the imagination and the hearts of every Star Wars fan around the world, to have the mythology and the beliefs of the Force channeled through this character and galvanized into what even people today follow as their own personal religion. It's so fascinating that all the philosophy of the Force is channeled through this little unassuming type of creature in the film that starts off in the guise of a kind of a fun, playful type of goofy little character that develops into such a magnificently dramatic and weighty type of character that has our attention completely focused on him for every single second he's on screen to impart all this wisdom upon Luke Skywalker. And it's very interesting that Yoda is a bit more of a tough type of honest teacher, that he's not going to try to sugarcoat things, that he's very resistant at first to taking on Luke Skywalker because he's been watching him through the Force all these years, seeing this impatient and petulant young man who really has a lot of passions and has a lot of danger that he can foresee for the character of Luke Skywalker if he continues on the path that he's been on, this sort of impulsive type of feeling that he has to rush into these situations to develop himself and prove that he is a Jedi. And just like, it's very interesting how Yoda teaches Luke Skywalker. Yoda is that character that's like, he's going to drive it home as strongly as he can to make Luke realize that there is a very deep down scary danger out there if he tries to rush in this thing and he's not prepared for it. But it's also the fact that we get the magic and the overall spirituality of the Force learned through the character of Yoda, that you learn that it is based on strength and belief and that type of thing, and just like believing in things that, again, do or do not. There is no try, just like you have to commit yourself forward to being a Jedi. That is very earnest and strong responsibility to become a Jedi Knight, that he has that decisiveness, that strength of will, that it is not about the physicality, and just the fact that, again, you get this fantastic little creature, unassuming, that you learn this breadth of the wisdom and the beauty of the Force overall through this character to understand it, that we didn't see so much of the power of the Force tangibly in the previous film, but here you get to see early on when Luke's in the Wampa Cave and he pulls the lightsaber towards him, and even in the climax or whatnot when Vader is using the exact same power on a much more amplified magnitude, that you see just so much more of the power and the Force side of the Force too, that you just see how much more powerful is the potential that the Force has through all the things that are exemplified in this film between Yoda and everyone else. And the fact that the intricate design of Yoda by Stuart Freeborn and the puppeteering and performance work by Frank Oz, in addition to Mark Hamill's own performance opposite this character, makes you believe so deeply in the power of Yoda and the power of the Force overall. It's just an absolute marvel of cinematic magic. And this film is in no shortage of absolute cinematic wizardry here, because Industrial Light and Magic really did push themselves to the next level to produce the visual effects of The Empire Strikes Back, to build on top of what they had done in the first film. And it absolutely shows in so many different places, especially with tackling the issues of doing optical effects opposite very bright backgrounds such as the planet of Hoth, because back then when you were doing optical composites, the matte lines were very thick and black to make them as opaque as possible, so they had to find the balance between making it opaque enough where it's going to work on screen, but not so opaque that it's going to create big, black, ugly matte lines when you see the speeders flying through or what have you. So it's like a very challenging type of thing that they had to go forward with to try to find the right balance and try to improve the technology to get to the right level to actually achieve what they had to do in this film, was much more dynamic type of stuff with the speeders and a lot of stop motion animation with the Imperial Walkers and even the Tauntauns too, and just the fact that they just did so many different things with all the stuff on Cloud City, with all those vistas and everything. All the stuff in the asteroid field was very dense, very complex type of stuff to realize all these various elements on screen, adding more dynamic camera angles, more dynamic movements. All this type of stuff was very, very challenging for them, but obviously by the fact that they won yet another Oscar for their achievements on this film, absolutely is a testament to why Industrial Light and Magic was the pioneers of visual effects in this era, to keep pushing forward with innovative new effects and new technology to push the medium of visual effects forward. And this is actually a fantastic achievement that still stands up magnificently today. The matte paintings that are on display throughout this whole film, with every different alien landscape that you see, it's just absolutely marvelous and seamless and fantastic type of work that was done by these amazing artists in the film. And even though Irvin Kershner felt that you really couldn't outdo the first Star Wars in terms of spectacle and action, that doesn't mean that The Empire Strikes Back doesn't still have some of the most iconic action sequences of the entire saga here, because right from the beginning with the Hoth battle, you get right into a very gritty and dark conflict here, that you definitely start seeing the might of the Empire here, that you see the superior firepower and just the absolute colossal weight that the Empire has to flex here, the muscle that they have, seeing like the Super Star Destroyer eclipsing all the other Star Destroyers, just showing that this is a show of power by the Empire. And just seeing right from the beginning with the Hoth battle, you just see that they are just more of a decimating type of force that is very much a necessary type of thing to show in this film after they'd gotten the Death Star destroyed and been defeated before. Now, like the film's title suggests, you need the Empire to come back and strike very hard and strike very definitively against the rebellion here, to show the actual tangible threat that this is a very dangerous galactic empire here that has the might and the will to do what they say they're going to do. And just one of my favorite action sequences in the entire Star Wars saga is that asteroid field chase, that there's just so many dynamic movements and so much absolute tension-filled moments in the entire sequence. I just think it's absolutely thrilling through and through, including John Williams' fantastic score in that scene. It's just so stirring and just builds up so much of the entire sequence. I absolutely love every second of it. And it's also very succinct too, that it really gets to the point of the sequence and then moves forward, that none of the action overstays its welcome. It's all very short, very straightforward. It all very much hits the points that it has to, and then moves the plot of the film forward. So you get a lot of quick, great, tight action in the film, but you still get great plot progression. Everything keeps moving forward in the film, certainly at different speeds, but it's just the fact that this film just adds so many more action sequences, just makes Star Wars saga continue to have such thrilling adventure through everything, that even when you're escaping Cloud City, there's just so much peril and so much suspense, that type of thing. There's so much to lose too, that just like everything has consequence, everything has much more to lose overall in this whole film, that the absolute drama of this film, having much more darker material, have a lot more things at stake in this film on a much more personal type of level, makes the action that much more important overall. But it's just the fact that everything they do with the effects in the film to create all these fantastic sequences, and how everything is edited together and shot, just makes it an absolute excellent type of execution from everyone involved. And another thing that I feel is a major step forward with this film is indeed its cinematography, because Irvin Kershner brought a much more theatrical and cinematic eye to this film, with a lot more dynamic and dramatic camera movements to really accentuate various beats in the film, to really give it a much more grander scope and much more intellectual type of visual style to it overall. You see an array of much more interesting compositions and how things are juxtaposed in the frame, and just how certain sequences just have a much more stronger flair and movement overall, that there is just a much more dramatic type of sense to how the film is presented and shot. And even a lot of the lighting in the film employs a lot of moody and atmospheric type of stuff, whether it is a little bit on Hoth, but a lot of it on a Dagobah, or especially when you get into the carbon freezing chamber with the beautiful blues and the ambers going on, create a great fantastic mood, just a great saturation of color that just creates an entirely different type of feel for the climax of this film than what you have seen in the previous film, that the film just adds much more depth and layers to its visual style overall that just creates a much more intriguing, fascinating type of visual style with this film. I just think everything that they use with the cinematography, with the camera movements, the lighting, everything that they do here just creates a much more vastly appealing film. I think the cinematography of this film is absolutely spectacular. And with this film taking us to so many different new planets and new environments in different places overall, we get some fantastic production design that I absolutely love with this film, that everything that is put together by these designers, these artists, really creates very distinct type of worlds. Obviously, you get Dagobah with his fantastic dense swamp area that just looks so alive and lush, but also so dark and dreary and kind of haunting too. But I absolutely love the look of Cloud City. It's such a fantastically idyllic sort of dreamlike scape. All the design is so beautiful and bright and just like almost has a bit of an Art Deco type of influence to it too. So it's like I've always just had such a great affinity for how the entire thing of Cloud City was designed and just how it looks so fantastic on screen. I think everything that was done with the production design on this film through and through, with every single set they built, which was over 60 sets that they built for this whole film, which is way more than the first film. You get to explore so many more vast and interesting type of places that just makes it feel like such a larger universe with this film, that this film just expands upon the universe of Star Wars and makes it so much more eclectic and interesting, and just overall just creates a much more dense and deep type of world to really kind of inhabit these characters with. You just feel it throughout this whole film, that it feels so much more vast, and just every little thing is so gloriously designed and gloriously realized on film. It just looks absolutely spectacular to me what they did with the design of every single environment in this film. And of course, whenever you talk about Star Wars, you have to talk about the phenomenal music of John Williams. And The Empire Strikes Back is likely my favorite score of the entire saga to date, because of how John Williams builds upon the foundation he laid with the score in the first film, bringing a much more lusher feel to everything, building and expanding upon the themes he laid out in the first film, such as bringing Leia's theme back from the first film and using it almost as the love theme for this film, between the romance of Han and Leia in this film, just bring it to such absolute beauty and apex in the film in so many wonderful moments. And even laying in brand new themes, including Yoda's theme that has such a light and airy type of quality to it, with still sort of a playful sensibility to kind of mirror all the little aspects we have that we see from the character of Yoda in the film. This has a wonderful, beautiful type of quality to it. But of course, this film is absolutely known for the fantastic Imperial March to just bring that verbose quality, that fantastic threatening presence to the Empire overall. It is absolutely one of the most iconic themes of the entire Star Wars saga, and John Williams just brings everything with such a great weight and absolute beauty with this entire score. And even the action cues just have so much of a grand, stirring quality, just adds in so much of the drama in this film, and just, like John Williams always does, accentuates all the magnificent emotion in the fiber of the film, just brings it out and has it come to such immense life. Just everything he does with this score just absolutely touches my heart and absolutely does everything perfectly. And it's just how his music ties in so well with the absolutely gorgeous and powerful visuals of this film to make for such a fantastical, cinematic, and magical experience. But even then, you can have the most gloriously looking film in the world, but if you don't have the fantastic story and the depth of emotion that this film has, it doesn't mean quite as much. But the fact of the matter is that Irvin Kershner and everyone involved with this film created such a powerful and hard-hitting emotional film. On so many points in this film, do you get almost gut punches to yourself, that especially when you get Han Solo frozen in carbonite and you see Leia weeping there. All these things in the film The reveal from Darth Vader about Luke's parentage and everything, gut punch after gut punch in this film. You just feel the weight and the gravity of all these things happening in the film. They're executed so extremely well, and they're sold so well by the actors themselves, that everything in this film has a weight and a purpose and intent to it, that everything just feels so gritty, so raw, and sort of visceral too, that everything just boils to the surface with these emotions in the film, that everything does have that intensity to it. All these things just feel so real and so genuine. When these things come into the film, you just feel it so much because you've spent so much time with these characters. You've gotten to know them, you've come to love these characters, and you're still invested in their journey throughout this whole film, that when these perils, when these absolute dire circumstances hit them, you absolutely feel it so much. And just the fact that you get so much of a range of emotions here, that you get the great moments of fear and the sorrow too, but there are still moments of triumph and heroism in this film, that there is such a great wide array of things in this film that you get. Again, there's still humor, there's still levity in the film, there's still a sense of humanity within this film, that if you didn't have that, it wouldn't feel like Star Wars. But you get that feeling of humanity with these characters, and the story overall, that there's still a sense of hope at the end of the film, despite all the bad stuff that's happened to these characters, that they have been knocked down, beaten down, they've had losses throughout this whole film. But it's great that at the end of the film, you still have a sense of hope moving forward. But it's just that fantastic climax in this film, when you have Darth Vader squaring off against Luke Skywalker in this almost a proving ground for Luke Skywalker, both for himself and for Darth Vader, to test him overall. That this is definitely, you can see it in the entire sequence, that Luke is the one who initiates the conflict. He lights up his lightsaber first. He goes to strike the first blow. Vader is wanting to test him every single step of the way, and you see it escalate from one point to the next, from one phase of the conflict to the next, that the choreography of these entire sequences just has a very real type of feel to it, that you feel definitely the highly powerful and overmatched Vader against the much more rudimentary, less skilled, a little bit frightened type of Luke Skywalker, who's still trying to keep everything in check, but he knows that this is a uphill battle, that he's going to have to fight for his life to survive this thing. You just feel a very gritty type of feel with this lightsaber duel, that you feel that there is a imminent danger here for Luke Skywalker throughout the whole thing at many different points, especially when you get into the second phase of it, and Vader starts hurling all the objects using the Force. You feel the danger, you feel the peril, but once you get into that third phase of the sequence, you definitely see that Vader just done screwing around. He is going full force at Luke Skywalker. You just see that Vader is that dangerous of a character with the lightsaber, with the Force, that it just shows so much that strength that the character has overall, and just everything, how it all builds and escalates throughout this entire conflict, up to that climactic moment where Luke finds out the secret, and then he hurls himself off. And then another moment I absolutely love is when Luke's hanging off that weather vane at the bottom of Cloud City, and he reaches out to Leia with the Force to communicate with her. Just a very powerful and strong emotional moment in the film that just bonds characters further, and just creates such a magic with the film overall, that there still is that magic and still that hope. Like I said earlier, that there's just so much with this emotion of this film that does make it such more of a stronger film overall than the first film. That, yeah, the first film is fantastic. I love the original film. But the fact of the matter is that Empire Strikes Back is that more matured type of film. It builds and expands on things and gets deeper with the characters and develops things forward to make these much more fuller and richer type of characters, and expand on its own ideas and mythology overall. That The Empire Strikes Back is one of the best sequels ever made, and possibly one of the greatest films ever made. That everything is hit and executed so amazingly well and so perfectly by Irvin Kershner. He did an amazing job directing this film on every single level. Everything came together between the fantastic dramatic storyline, the epic characters, the fantastic action in this film, everything that he did to execute this with his amazing team of artists and talented actors. Everyone involved with The Empire Strikes Back absolutely made a perfect classic, in my opinion, that this film is just an amazing piece of work that just does everything right, in my opinion, that it is taking that second act of the story to dig deeper and make it a little bit more darker and explore different ground in this film, that it doesn't become a repeat like a lot of sequels are. This is definitely showing this is a second chapter of an overall story arc that is executed with so much fantastic excellence in my view. The Empire Strikes Back is a fantastic, amazing film that, preparing for this review, I watched the film twice back to back, just get the full experience, get everything soaked in as deeply as I possibly could to just explore this film in as much depth as possible. That it's just a fantastic film. Watching again, just so much of a flood of memories back to me, just like my old tape number 31 VHS tape that has Empire and Jedi recorded off of Showtime. I just got that flood of emotions back when I was a kid watching and worrying the living hell out of this tape, to the point where my parents eventually had to buy me an actual VHS trilogy set to actually keep me watching this series of films over and over and over again. It's just the fact of the matter is that where it was when I had that young feeling, whatnot, that nostalgia still floods back to me with every single quality of this film. It's just that fantastic flood of emotions for something that you've held dearly for decades and decades to yourself, and you still find yourself loving it more than you ever have before. Because obviously as a kid, I probably enjoyed the first Star Wars and Jedi much more, but as I mature and grow older and everything, I definitely see the depth and beauty in this film. But it's not like I didn't always love it before, but this is just, it's just grown so much more in my opinion. There's so much more of a deeper and stronger film overall that just gives me so much on so many levels. That's a whole lot to say about it. Such a fantastic film that it's just epic. Empire Strikes Back is absolutely a fantastic, epic film that I think I've said as much as I possibly can at this point in time about, but I just absolutely love this film, and I would definitely rank it among my favorite films of all time. Definitely, possibly top 5, top 10 of all time of everything I've ever seen. It just, watching it again, just ups everything I've ever loved about it. Just returns me back to that fantastic, excited mindset moving forward under 2 weeks away from The Force Awakens. This puts me right back into that mood, that excitement, that enthusiasm from Star Wars, and I hope it has for you too. So there's a whole lot of talking about such a fantastic film. It's now your turn, you guys, for you to post your comments below and share your beloved memories and what you absolutely love powerfully about The Empire Strikes Back. And certainly, if you have a different opinion, if you have a sort of a different ranking about what you feel is the best Star Wars film, I would certainly implore you to share those thoughts as well, that maybe some other people do rank something else different. Maybe they'd like Jedi more. Maybe they like some other film in the franchise more than Empire, that you feel is a stronger film that appeals to them on a much stronger level. So definitely share those comments below, because I would absolutely love to hear that mix of emotions from everyone. Which film has hit you the strongest and really has that strongest place in your heart overall? I got nothing else to say, man, even though there probably is a million other things you could possibly say about the film. That's all I got for this point in time, but it's been an epic journey just getting through The Empire Strikes Back, and if you have massively enjoyed this review I've done for you guys, I would highly, highly, deeply appreciate the thumbs up on the video, spreading the links around your social media accounts, and certainly hooking you up with me through RavensFilm Productions on various social media outlets through the links in the description below. But thank you guys for watching. This has been an epic video that certainly never thought I'd really push myself to do Empire, and let alone Jedi. But just like this has felt like such a very personal experience to me, and I'm so glad that I have done it now. And I'm going to stop rambling here, because there is still Return of the Jedi to get to after this. So for The Force Awakens, you will get a review of Return of the Jedi. So it's going to be a fantastic, epic journey leading up to the release of this film. I absolutely cannot wait. So I will see you guys soon. Thank you so much for checking out this video, which is commemorating breaking 1,000 subscribers here on the RavensFilm Productions YouTube channel, and leading up to possibly the biggest film of the entire year, Star Wars The Force Awakens. So thanks guys for watching. I'll be back shortly. Take care. May the Force be with you.